This is episode 38, compound sentences. Now last episode we looked at the simple sentence and identified that it was made up of one clause. And we can identify a clause because it has a verb or verb phrase and a subject within it. Not within the verb phrase, but within the clause. Now a compound sentence, what we're looking at today, is made up of two or more clauses. But not all sentences with two or more clauses are compound sentences, so let's take a closer look. Consider the following sentence. I ran to the train, but I was too late. Now this is one sentence, but it is not one clause. And we know that this is not one clause because it has more than one lexical verb. In fact, this sentence has two lexical verbs in it. Let's take a look. We have ran and we have was, the be verb, was the copula. Okay, so we'll check also if there is more than one subject. Who ran? I ran. Who was? I was. So in both these clauses we have the same subject, which is I. We definitely have two clauses here because there is a subject and a verb, and then again a subject and a verb. And these clauses are joined together with a conjunction but. Let's put a triangle around but. Okay, now this is a compound sentence, but how do I know? Well, there are two ways that I can tell. Firstly, each clause in a compound sentence is a main clause or an independent clause. So this one here, I ran to the train, this is a main or independent clause, and this clause here, I was too late, this is also a main clause or an independent clause. How do I know that they're a main clause or an independent clause? Well, they can stand alone. That is, I ran to the train, full stop. Yep, that's a complete sentence. I was too late, full stop. Yep, that's a complete sentence. So they can equally be written as separate sentences, and the conjunction in between them merely helps to determine the relationship between them. Therefore, if we were to look at the definition of a main clause, we would have the following thing. A main clause or independent clause is one that can stand alone. Okay, just like we saw. So if we were to make some rules about what a compound clause entails, what a compound sentence entails rather, we would come up with the first rule. And our first rule is this, that it must be comprised of two or more main clauses. I'll write that down. Okay, now the other way that we can tell this is a compound sentence, and I'll just get the sentence back here so we can have a look. Here. There it is by its conjunction. But, there it is. Now there are a finite number of conjunctions that can be used between main clauses in the English language, and these are what we call coordinating conjunctions. And in fact this list of coordinating conjunctions is so finite that we can actually create the list right here. Let's do it. We have for, and, nor, but, or, yet, and so. Now these make the acronym, when put together, looking down here, fanboys. And it's a great way to remember what our coordinating conjunctions are. Of course, there are a couple of variations around these words, such as not only but also, and neither something nor something else. But even these include one of the above mentioned coordinating conjunctions. So the sentence, I ran to the train but I was too late, uses a coordinating conjunction but. So therefore we can come to the conclusion the compound sentence uses a coordinating conjunction. So that's the second rule, and I'll just bring that page back. That's the second rule that we can put down here when we're trying to think of all the things that help us know whether it's a compound sentence. So I'm going to write that one down. Now, compound sentences can also have a semicolon in between the different clauses with an adverbial linking word such as however, therefore, nonetheless. These are also ways of creating compound sentences as well. Okay, but these are not coordinating conjunctions, these are adverb links. So these are also an option for compound sentences and joining two main clauses. Okay, so to summarise, a compound sentence must comprise of two or more main clauses, and we recognise main clauses because they can stand alone. And compound sentences use coordinating conjunctions to join the main clauses, and we can remember this with the acronym FANBOYS, for, and, nor, but, or, yet, so. And also there can be a semicolon and an adverb to join the two main clauses as well. Okay, so let's look at some examples just to make sure that we know what we're talking about. Oh, we'll move those coordinating conjunctions, and here are some examples for us here. Okay, so our first sentence here is, the largest of the bags was the most convenient, but he didn't really like it. So that's our first sentence. And our second sentence is, she couldn't swim, nor could she fly, yet her personality was as bright as the sun and people loved her. Okay, so one sentence seems much longer than the other. They seem to have definitely more than one clause. I wonder how many they have. Let's find out whether it is a compound sentence and how many clauses they do have. So the first thing we need to do, of course, is to spot the verbs. So let's do that first in the first sentence. The largest of the bags was is our verb, the copula. The most convenient, but he didn't really like it. So like is our lexical verb here. Did is our auxiliary verb. We've got not really in here is our adverbs. And as we've sort of said, you know, just for ease, we'll make that all our verb. Okay, so there's our verbs here. We've got two verbs. So this is definitely a sentence with two clauses. Now we're going to see if we can find the subjects for each one. So what was? Well, the largest of the bags was. This whole thing is the subject here. Okay, and let's find the subject for the verb just before, he. Okay, so he is the subject here. So we have two subjects, two verbs. Now where's our conjunction? Here it is, but again. Now we know that but is one of our coordinating conjunctions. So this is definitely a compound sentence and it has two clauses. Okay, let's have a look at the next one. All right, so swim is our lexical verb, could is our auxiliary verb, not is the adverb that goes in between, so this whole thing is a verb, and the subject related to that is she. That's our subject. Could, oh, this is interesting. Here we have could fly, and she is actually after the auxiliary, so there's been a bit of a reversal or a switch between the auxiliary verb and the subject. It's lexical, but there it is, she, and sometimes that happens. It happens a lot in questions, of course. I do like biscuits. Do you like biscuits? So the subject and the verb swap, auxiliary verb swap, but this is not an uncommon thing, and we'll look at that later when we look at different sentence types. Let's keep going. We have was as our next verb here. And what was? Well, her personality was. So that's our subject, that's our verb. And as the sun and people loved. So there's our verb loved. And who loved her? But the people did. There's our subject. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 verbs and 1, 2, 3, 4 subjects. So there's definitely 4 clauses in this. Now let's find our conjunctions. We should really find 3. We have nor, that's one of our coordinating conjunctions. Yet, that's one of our coordinating conjunctions. And, that's one of our coordinating conjunctions. So both of these sentences are compound sentences. This bottom one has 4 clauses, this top one has 2 clauses. All right, so there is actually one more thing that I want to show you before we pull up. And this is looking at a snippet from a very popular nursery rhyme, Jack and Jill. We know Jack and Jill went up the hill to fetch a pail of water. Jack fell down and broke his crown, and Jill went tumbling after. Okay, so that's what we're going to look at here. So let's just see if we can do the same thing on this sentence as we've done with the others. So we're going to find out what kind of sentence this is by first of all checking the verbs. Let's find the verbs first. We have fell, that's our lexical verb. We have broke, that's our lexical verb. And we have went, and that's our lexical verb here. So now we need to find the subjects. We have Jack is the subject for fell. We have Jill is the subject for went. But what is the subject for broke? Well, there isn't one, but we know who it's referring to, don't we? It's referring to Jack. It doesn't say it explicitly, but we know it to be true. You see, with compound sentences, sometimes the subject can be omitted if it's already contextually evident from the previous clause. And this is another example of ellipsis. And we explored that in our previous video, and we'll have a quick reminder of it here today. So, an ellipsis is the omission from speech or writing of a word or words that are superfluous or able to be understood from contextual clues. Now, last time we saw it in an imperative sentence. The front subject was an ellipsis, the you, because it was known from contextual clues. And now we can see in compound sentences that often the second clause can omit the subject because contextually we know it to be the same as the first clause. All right, so that's the compound sentence. That's it. Next time we will look at the complex sentence, which is another sentence structure that uses 2 or more conjunctions, but using subordinating instead of coordinating conjunctions, something to look forward to. So until then, thanks for watching The Language Code.